Good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
And we got Blaine Bartlett up very early on the West Coast. Thank you, Blaine, for joining us.
Good news is I'm not in Hawaii today.
Yeah, you probably would. What's that? 2 a.m. So
Maybe 2 a.m. there. Yeah.
Yeah, we would miss you immensely. But he woke up early because we have a very special guest, and it's amazing because billions and billions of dollars are made in this space. And with one simple counterintuitive thought that, we can have a short-term solution to a long-term life, hopefully long-term life. And especially when we put short-term solutions to wanting to have a long-term life, we end up sometimes with a short-term life, which is tragic in most cases. And I want to welcome Michelle Seeger. She is the award-winning, and I love this, right? She first one I think on here, Blaine, and thousands of episodes of different shows that I do, lifestyle coach, which immediately caught my eye and is aligned with our philosophy in life. But she most notably is a sustainable behavior change researcher at the prestigious University of Michigan. Although I'm an Ohio State fan, half my family went to Michigan. I have 8 great uncles that went to undergrad and med school at Michigan. None of them over 5'2", by the way. And our firm represented Jim Harbaugh. So we have great relationships there. But I'm a mama's boy, and my mama went to Ohio State. So that's my background there. Now, let's talk about the joy of choice, which is the name of your new book. And we do have choices for everything in our lives. In fact, I'm here with my college at IU, another Big Ten school, my daughter, and I'm trying to figure out a way to teach her what your book is teaching us, everlasting change through nutrition and exercise. And I'm going to let you go with that. Is where is this misnomer that, I can go on the South Beach diet and the rest of my life I'm going to be healthy, happy, wealthy, and worthy?
Right. Wow. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show, and double thanks, knowing what I know now about Ohio State. I really appreciate you crossing that barrier. So here's the deal. We've been taught a pretty singular approach to both changing our eating and trying to exercise more. And it's based on the idea that there are these gold standards, perfect bullseye that we should aim for. And that's what we do when we start, whether we start a South Beach diet, whether we join a gym, whether we get a Peloton, whatever it is. The world has socialized us as a society that there's a right way to do it. And if you can't do it right, it's not worth doing at all. And that's all or nothing thinking. And so most people have internalized this belief system to no fault of their own. And we bring this to our attempt to eat healthier and exercise more. But what happens is, and this is what the joy choice is about, is that we can't control life. And the more roles and responsibilities we have, the more people we're in charge of managing, whether it's in our families, in our homes, or outside in our places of work, the more unanticipated comes to us, right? Because the more people that are in our lives, pets too, the more unexpected things we have to take care of. Well, when life gives us curveballs, it interferes with getting our eating and exercise right. And so that becomes what derails most people's behavior change attempts. And so the joy choice, which is defined as the perfect, imperfect option, is what we can choose when we face an unexpected conflict with either our healthy eating plan or our exercise plan. So it's reframing what success is. And instead of thinking it's got to be perfect the whole path, we realize there's just going to be ups and downs. Guess what? Like every other area of our life. And when we bring that grace and sensibility to eating and exercise, then we can stay the path of lasting change.
I love this because it's just coming off vacation or in a 3-week travel schedule. My health, in terms of diet, my diet was disrupted. I drank too much. I ate too much. My exercise plan was disrupted. I literally did nothing except lay at the beach. Um, and I love this, Michelle, because essentially both my wife and I, we just kind of looked at each other and said, it is what it is. Let's just enjoy this, because we know that when we get back home, we're going to get back into the routine, and no harm, no foul basically was the decision here. There's no harm, no foul. It's not perfect. It's not about being perfect. And that, it's interesting. There was an unexpected, I'm thinking about this as we're talking right now, an unexpected and unintended consequence to that, which was freedom.
Yes. Yes. And we know from research that having a sense of freedom is an important part of happiness. And so, but let's pretend that you had a different attitude on vacation. So here's what I bet would have happened. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, and really feel if you two would have said to yourself, no, we have to stick to the plan. We lost weight before this trip. We've got to do it right. You know what would have happened? You guys would have eventually broken down, rebelled against that, overdone things, like done way more than you needed to because you were in an act of reactance or rebellion. You would have felt terrible about yourselves, come back, and probably had ambivalence about starting because you already felt like a failure. But because you said, you know what, this is a special occasion. This isn't forever. Why not have freedom and enjoy the opportunities that we have to eat well and rest well and rejuvenate and play? And when we go back home and return to our normal life. But that speaks to how extensive the all or nothing thinking is for most people. Most people do not give themselves permission to do that. And that just creates a rebound effect.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and we got to that pretty quickly. We just kind of looked at each other and said, it is what it is. Let's just, we're not going to be doing it the way that we would do it back home.
Yes.
Which was fine. It was fine. And again, I go back to no harm, no foul. It's not about being perfect. It's about having an experience of excellence while I'm living that day.
That's right.
Let me give a different perspective to that as well. And I agree with that. And I think that it's important you use two words in the title of your book. And so you can imagine it's not the right. Joy and choice. One of the key things that I teach in sustainable life practices and with 5 daily practices is the concept of time in the relativity of it, meaning our past is based on defined moments that we give meaning to. So it's completely relative. Plus, time is relative in the past. We can all close our eyes for 1 second and go a billion years together into the past. Or the future, which I love about the future, which Blaine, I think, articulated well in a pragmatic way, is, hey, there's no defined moments in the future. So it's all relative to me. And I'll get to those priorities at the timing that I want in the relativity of my future. But the joy of choice exists in the present, and it requires prioritization, which requires us to know what's important to us personally, which Blaine articulated, experientially, lying on the beach, which is wonderful wife. And Michelle, you need to meet his wife, by the way. She's extraordinary. Wrote the book Unstoppable Women. She's the founder of Unstoppable Foundation. Wow. She's unstoppable. And she definitely doesn't. She can take 4 weeks off and she's going to look amazing and be healthy. And then accountability. Then giving and receiving values for just that day. And so I think a lot of people create so much resistance and they don't allow for the aggregate effect of lifestyle changes that are not, like you said, aggregated intensely every single day that creates more resistance, but instead say, okay, I know I have a long-term objective example to live a long time, Michelle, but today I'm in Hawaii with my gorgeous wife and it's beautiful out. I'm going to go ahead and prioritize and enjoy my prioritization today in a trajectory for a long-term lifestyle that I want. And I can change my mind tomorrow, by the way, too, when I get home or I'm at the beach again. How do we teach people this perspective because they get so caught up on attaching their emotions to an outcome and creating more resistance for themselves.
Right. Well, the first thing is it's really important for people to reflect on how they've done it in the past and whether it's led to these types of outcomes. And I think it's very helpful also to use metaphor and an analogy and imagine what kind of relationships we'd have with our partners and kids if we expected them to be perfect all the time.
Oh, you met my mom?
I love how you say that.
You met my mom.
Well, but that's what we expect our diet and exercise to be, right? So no wonder we don't have this flexible relationship with it, which is what we need for any long-term behavior, whether it's professional or personal. We have to have flexibility. You know, the reed that blows in the wind doesn't break. It's the mighty oak that tries to stay standing instead of bending with it. And of course it can't. And so that's Aesop's fable. And so the way people can learn it is bringing pragmatism to this question and to understand that, and to really deeply understand that we as a society, it is no one's fault. And this is, this is true. This is a truism. We as a society have been educated, socialized, indoctrinated to be perfect when it comes to our eating and exercise. And that recipe sets most up to fail. Now, it doesn't set everyone up to fail. There are a minority of people, and my husband is one of them, who is successful with doing it perfectly every day and no deviation. But guess what? He does everything in his life like that. So there are people who have the personalities, but that's not the majority of people. So I think we have to realize if it hasn't worked, it probably means it's not a good fit with our personalities and how we live our lives, our life context. And so then the alternative is to learn how to be more flexible. And the flexibility is needed not every day. It's needed when something unexpected happens, whether it's feeling unmotivated, whether it's an unexpected trip to the vet, or to have to pick up your child at school, or a work deadline that all of a sudden your client needs it tomorrow instead of next week. That's when we need to say, okay, this is an opportunity. This is a choice point for me. And it's not about all or nothing. It's that everything counts. Something is better than nothing. I can make the joy choice here. And the joy choice, once you rebrand the perfect and perfect, not as this second-class citizen when it comes to our eating and exercise, but as the linchpin of sustainability across life, who doesn't want to make a joy choice? So that's how I would ask people to think about it.
I need to interrupt 1 second just to go on record right now. My wife is perfect.
Well, it is important to understand these things. Yes.
As literally an award-winning lifestyle coach, and it's that's the one that I want to pick up on, is lifestyle, which is different than life coach. And lifestyle. Let me just I'm going to check something with you here, Michelle. You opened up this conversation by speaking about success, how we define success. And what is the way that you have actually linked the definition of success, which is highly personal, to lifestyle and then ultimately choice? So, I've got a lifestyle that supports what, or how does my definition of success inform my lifestyle? Let's
right.
Kind of in both directions.
Sure. So, what I bring to answer this question is being, again, lifestyle self-care coach, but also an academic researcher who conducts my own research as well as studies everything I can from other people to keep seeing what the new science says. And what science suggests is that having a continuum of success instead of a bullseye is more adaptive for people feeling successful. And of course it makes sense, right? I have a visual in my presentations that I give now that shows a target with a small red bullseye on the wall, and that is the typical definition of success when it comes to our lifestyles. Again, that's not a science-based definition of success. It's just a convention. But what if instead of having this teeny little red bullseye on a small target in a room, instead of having that as success, what if the whole room were the target and the bullseye, and anywhere we hit, success? Well, what that means is that when we expand our definition of success, then we can feel successful. And when we feel successful, that cultivates motivation and mastery, which is the feedback we need to keep going. So, since I started on this path in 1994, my North Star has been sustainable behavior change. And when you're talking about sustainability, that's a huge difference than starting a behavior.
Yeah.
It changes your whole paradigm because you need different things when it comes to sustaining a behavior versus starting it.
And the clients that I work with from a business perspective, particularly the leaders, one way that we've ended up defining, or that I've ended up defining success in the work that we do is using the word sustainability. Sustainable success is developing the capacity to continuously start over.
That's right. And the start over, that is one way of thinking about it. The other way of thinking about it is that the whole path includes dips, but that if you start over or you make an imperfect choice because it's the only option, you're still moving forward. What gets people really stuck is the sense of, I've got to do it right. And the good news is I work with the fitness industry and, the leading organizations, and they are starting to shift. I mean, part of the problem has come from the industry and researchers like myself who've doled out prescriptions. And, this is, you have to get your heart rate up. You have to do it a certain number of minutes for it to be worth doing. Well, guess what? The new recommendations have removed any requirements because something is better than nothing. And so we have been part of the problem, but the good news is that the industry itself has even realized this, and that huge ship is starting to turn. It will take a while.
I'm not going to comment because we could talk for hours, but we're going to have you back because I absolutely have like 6 different questions that I need to ask you. Michelle Segar, thank you so much. Obviously, life is about choices, making those choices to bring us joy in the pursuit of our potential. She's given you a guide to do just that. Thank you, Michelle Segar. We will have you back. You're incredible. Please look up the Joy Choice by Michelle Segar, michellesegar.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Awesome interview. All right. I feel sorry for Brent. He almost, I wasn't sure he was going to show up after.
There he is.
Michelle. Sometimes I get onto shows, Blaine, as you do, right? And you're like, holy shit, they got Sadhguru before me? What the fuck? Jesus Christ, I'm going to look like it. And then
follow this.
Right, and then luckily, they'll get someone like Jordan Belfort before me, and I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm going to look like, the amazing good guy. Anyway, but I definitely won't be as entertaining as Jordan Belfort, that's for sure. Anyway, Brent Jackson, what a great baseball name, by the way, founder and CEO of Torpago, Torpago.com. Fintech is obviously an amazing area that needs to be re-engineered and rethought and redefined. And I think that your platform, Torpago, is one of those platforms that has truly redefined spend management. And so I always like to start at the lowest common denominator. Matt, my producer, always says, when we're done with these interviews, hey, Dave, you didn't really even ask him what spend management was. Guys my age in their 20s, we don't even know what spend management is. So I'm going to ask you a question. What is spend management?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you guys for having me on, David, Blaine. Excited to be here and chat with you a little bit. Jump right into it. I mean, to us, business spend management is helping companies better manage their finances and spend smarter. It can be a very spread out process to manage corporate spending. Companies can use, up to 3, 4, 5 different systems just to make, simple purchases for traveling, meals, business software. So really for us, business spend management is, building tools to simplify that whole corporate spending process for growing businesses.
So the idea of managing, what is it specifically that spend management manages, Brent?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question. It's time and automation are the big things for us. Okay. So, time is valuable. The last thing employees want to do, and, managers, accounting team, the last thing they want to do is be tracking down receipts for business trips, for purchases, and, approving those, entering them into their accounting system. The biggest thing for us is automation and time. So we automate the whole process from, swiping your card to approving a transaction, to categorizing it, to syncing it to the tools that you connect with in, seconds. So what could take weeks to get reimbursed in the older process could be done in, seconds, theoretically, with our platform.
And Brent, one of the critical business issues, one of the most, I should say, important critical business issues that you address, I'm sure you learned about as a former Deloitte consultant, which is employee engagement. Mm-hmm. Blaine and I talk about it all the time because, as we're a little bit older and a little bit more experienced, we're just, dumbfounded at companies not looking at this engagement issue because, my analogy is this, Brent. I'm a sports guy, as you can tell.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
Imagine if you had Tom Brady and he was giving 4% of his effort every day.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the team was giving 4% of the effort every day. And Belichick, 4% of the effort. And because you were still winning Super Bowls, nobody gave a shit and looked at the fact that, like, holy moly, what if we double the engagement? I will tell you, in the spend management side, one of the most important things to engage and increase productivity is this issue, for example, of expense reimbursement.
Yeah.
I when I started working at 24, I would run up an $80,000 month because of the travel early and working for such a big business. And they would take their time, and I almost quit the best job in the world because I felt disgraced by them that they didn't care because they were so big. They didn't think that $80,000 was a big deal to their employees.
So were they making you cover that 80K, or were you and then waiting to get? Jesus. So that's the biggest thing that people don't talk about is that a lot of young grads, a lot of young employees, they might not necessarily have a credit card or a line of credit to cover 80K, 20K, big business trips. So what we're doing is we're underwriting the businesses, we're empowering the employees to work better, smarter, be more engaged, and they're spending company funds on company cards instead of waiting to get reimbursed like you alluded to. So it really simplifies the process and allows them to become more proactive.
Yeah, the whole, I mean, when I was working for others, much the same as
a long time ago, Brent.
A long time ago.
Now he just works for his wife.
I think we all do it in some way. Yeah.
But the friction. I'm using the word friction here very, very specifically, or the friction of filling out an expense report and making sure that it was categorized in an effective manner. That was a pencil and paper process before submission. Now, I know that we've come a long way since then, but as a small business, and let's just take the larger businesses out of the picture right now. But as a smaller business, a mid-sized firm, I've got 100 employees or something like that. How does your process work for me as a business owner, or if I'm an employee of a smaller business like that? I'm interested here in scalability.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first thing, real quick, you'd be surprised at how many people are still doing pen and paper or Excel. I mean, we've come a long way, but it's still pretty manual. But on our process, we try and simplify it. So you would apply on our website like any other credit card. What we've done that's a little different is we'll underwrite businesses based on their verified bank data. So they connect a bank account through Plaid. We get read-only access into their transaction history. We've got a proprietary underwriting system that allows us to scale with the business, give them higher credit limits. From there, we walk the controller accounting team through a automated setup process that could be done in as quick as 30 minutes, or it could take a week depending on how big you are. From there, you create custom spending policies, limits, rules. We can get very granular with what you can spend on, how much you can spend. And then from there, once you're set up, you can start issuing cards to your team within minutes. So you get that spend policy set up. You can issue virtual cards. You can send them right to your mobile app. You can get plastic cards next day or to you. And it's pretty seamless for the employees to really just get an account, start spending, and, understand what the company policy is and get up and running.
And, that's a great issue too, Brent, is, onboarding someone's the highest form of anxiety when the first, few weeks. And if you can, it raises the excitement when it's like, oh my God, I got my corporate card. Oh my gosh, they did, and you look so efficient. And, the worst thing and the weirdest thing is you're building up expenses over the first 2 weeks, for example, and you have to ask your new boss, hey, am I going to get my my card, because you're putting me out there with the same issues again. But there's another value in the transparency part, that on the other side, there's obviously great employee engagement side, but look, millions of dollars are stolen every year by employees as well, and justified because they're doing whatever they do. And I've moved very quickly in a very large company from the sales rep to the vice president of sales, and hired my own friends. And in the old days, would walk out of a cab and my buddy, not thinking, would be like, can I have 2 receipts? Or a kid would run over to the TGI Friday to go and get a $25 gift card because we had a $25 per diem for food, and he had a collection of cards. What are some of the things that save companies millions and millions of dollars on the spend transparency side to protect manipulation of expenses?
Yeah, it's funny. That story kind of reminds me of the Deloitte days where everybody had a corporate Amex. If you work past 6 o'clock, you get your meal expense, you get your Uber expense. So I had plenty of friends who would run charges on other Amexes. They would stay later and work. And it's kind of the Wild West, to be completely honest with you. What we've done a really, really good job of is we have a very granular control system. So the controller, the accountant, the CFO, operations manager, whoever it is, they can take the time up front. They put the controls in place, and it restricts what the companies can spend on and what the employees can spend on. So we can get as granular as, what merchant, like you can only spend at AWS or Starbucks, for example, right? Or what type of day, how much per hour, per swipe. So setting those controls up in the front really helps a lot. And we've found that has, stopped overspending quite a bit. And then also the big thing that we do is we break everything down to the per transaction level. So instead of grouping all your charges together, submitting them for reimbursement, waiting 2 weeks, what we do is every time you swipe the card, you get a push notification, you take a picture of the receipt, you hit submit, it goes through an automated review process, syncs to your accounting system, and it's done. So there's no, hey, John Smith spent $20,000 at the bar the last month. It's all real time. You can see it, and it sort of prevents that overspending.
That's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you, Brent, and also success and congratulations on raising over $80 million. That's always an indication that you're doing the right thing the right way. The founder and CEO.
I appreciate that.
Torpago. You're amazing.
Yeah.
More companies need to reach out, torpago.com. Talk about the one thing I like about your business. I'm a person who loves to be able to articulate quantitative value to exceed what I'm asking for. There's certain solutions or platforms that are difficult to do that. You really have to understand everything. I think it would take me a matter of minutes to articulate the quantitative value to a company of why you need to utilize Torpago. So congratulations, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on. So thank you.
Hey, love the conversation. I'm going to check your platform out. I've got a couple of clients that I think could benefit.
Yeah, I got one big solar company that definitely needs you. They're having difficulty.
I'd love to chat offline and see if we can get some of these signed up. So thank you guys.
I have an overlap agreement. I always have my overlap agreement.
You got it.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, good
stuff.
stuff.
All right. Carrie is here finally.
Carrie.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have one question for Carrie Carrington Smith. Carrie Carrington Smith, do you remember me?
Of course I remember you.
Well, because you wrote a memoir, so I was hoping you remembered me.
Of course, yeah. So the last time I saw David was at our law school reunion.
We went to law school together.
Really?
Yes,
That's
yes.
great.
She was a much better student than I was.
Well, it's interesting. I look back on those law school days and remember you as just this always friendly, warm, engaging. You were a friend to everyone. And in law school, it's one of those situations where there's so much comparison going on because we're being ranked. And so everyone was sort of like pushing each other out of the way, trying to get to the top. And so I don't know how many people walked away with really great, strong law school bonds, because I feel like we were constantly going head to head with one another. And that is one of the themes of my book, which is that comparison kills. And it's the thief of joy. Yeah.
Yeah, thief of joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so funny because looking at came out in November, your book, and it's amazing how we share so much of the same positive attitude. I mean, the only difference is you came from high class and no class was my class. And so, but yet we shared this same idea. In fact, the name of your book, might as well be A Philosophy of Life, which is blooming, finding gifts in the shit of life.
Yeah.
And I have a philosophy, Carrie, of being protected and promoted. At what point did you understand that it is the pain, setbacks, failures, and mistakes, the shit of life that is protecting and promoting us, not punishing us?
Yeah. I think it was a really gradual process. I think one of the things that I really fought through my entire life was that I didn't want any of these traumatic life difficulties or failures to define me, right? And the great irony, I think God has a sense of humor. The great irony of that is that,
especially when you have a well-developed plan, he has an extraordinary sense of humor.
Yeah. I think that while I was trying to not be defined by things, the truth of the matter is the things that you pretend or don't want to talk about are the very things that are festering inside of you, and they end up controlling you. And it wasn't until I actually kind of went through therapy and started talking about things that I unearthed that there were gifts in the traumas, failures, and difficulties of life. And I came to the realization that the shit in my life was actually fertilizer. And so that's why I was very deliberate in using that term, because it's a double entendre. I mean, it shows you how the two are interwoven, and how by embracing the things that happen to us and actually going back and re-examining it and claiming it and understanding it's the part of the fabric of who you are. It's part of your personal journey and your story. Mm-hmm. That's where you uncover all the gifts and the growth that God had intended for you. And you discover too how it's been operating in your life. So for me, I mean, one of the, I guess, greatest gifts that I received was intuition. And we all have intuition, but I have a real hyper awareness. And that gift came from having a really rocky childhood, where when you're walking on eggshells, you grow these extra long sort of tendrils of being sensitive and observing everything that's happening around you, so that you don't have someone blow up and have, a hardship, another hardship in your life. And I went and I looked back and I realized that this gift of intuition was born from my childhood. And if I could be grateful for the gift of intuition, then I had to be grateful for the path that birthed it. I couldn't separate one from the other. And it gave me a whole new light to look at all of the hardships in my life, because I realized they were intended to give me gifts. And so by embracing them and using them instead of letting them be a drain, using them to propel me forward in life, that's why I wrote the book. I wanted for people to see, like, as we're going through this universal trauma of COVID, is when I wrote the book, how that's actually, there's opportunity in that adversity. Yeah. And I agree with you, David. It's funny. I was thinking about how our life stories or paths could not be more different, other than we went to law school together. But yet we arrived at the same place as far as discovering the same things. And that's why I have such an appreciation for what you do and what you say, because it's just truth. It's just truth. And if we can help people get there sooner, what a gift we're giving to them.
Yeah. to get there sooner. The embedded in that statement is an assumption that there's a there to get to, as opposed to I'm already there and now it's just an unfolding.
Thank you for that correction. You're right. That's a better way to look at it.
Well, what kind of triggered that for me, Carrie, and I love the story here, and the title of your book is, Finding the Gifts. Now, the word shit, translating it into fertilizer, that metaphoric shift, that paradigm, it is a paradigm shift. It's a mindset shift. It opens up all kinds of possibilities, because now I've got an uplifting conversation energetically, vibrationally, as opposed to a downward spiral.
Yes.
And it allows me to be empowered rather than victim.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I just want to commend, I haven't read the book, but I want to commend the process. And I know the process of moving to that realization and the empowerment that makes possible. So I just, basically what I'm doing here is I'm just applauding and acknowledging what you've been up to and what you're bringing to the table that's going to enable others to actually realize something that I think is pretty universal, that we're never not on the path.
Right.
We were born on the path.
Absolutely. And the story that we tell ourselves is so critical to our success, right? And if we feel like we're victimized and that's how, or victim, if we label ourselves as a victim, then we're telling the world and our vibration, whatever, is that we are disempowered. Mm-hmm. And when we shift that to, I wasn't a victim, I was victimized, and you go back and you change the narrative and say, yeah, you reclaim your power. Yep. And so in my book, I quote a lot of different people, and one of them is Viktor Frankl. Mm-hmm. And I love his story, and how, as for people who haven't read his books, Man's Search for Meaning, he talks about being in a concentration camp, and yet he's able to separate himself from that experience and actually find pity for his guard, and then empathy, and actually be like, wow, how awful for him that this is, his job. So for someone to be able to get there, but it's all about the story you tell yourself. And so he took himself from being disempowered to being powerful in that experience. And so I really took a lesson from that. And by the way, this is the book for.
Oh, thank you.
Hold it up. It's a
Hold
great
it up
book.
close. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
It is a great book. And I see the journey. And it's interesting for me, because I tell people all the time, because I did grow up with a single mom, 6 kids, also abused when I was a little boy, all types of similarities. But it doesn't matter what financial society you live in. There's a world of not enough in the world that you were, where everyone's a victim, where things happen to you. And then there's also the world of for you, where everything's a trade or negotiation. And when you talked about having to walk on your tiptoes, on eggshells, because you didn't want to dis-ease the family or put yourself at dis-ease, we're living in this world of just enough for me, where everything is a zero-sum game, and you talked about comparison. That's a zero-sum game, where if I'm this, then somebody else can't be that as well. If they're doing that, then I can't have that as well. If I give, I can't receive, because I'd be taking, and that's not a good person to receive. And you somehow, like you said, ended up in the same abundant world that I have. And Blaine has taught me and is teaching some of the people that work for and with me, look, there's more than enough of everything for everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? There's more than enough. And instead of worrying about things happening to you or for you in a trade or a negotiation, let it come through you.
Yes.
And I have a word of acknowledgement, and I'd love for you to ask us the question, but the word acknowledgement has changed for me. We acquire the knowledge. The shit turns to fertilizer when we acquire the knowledge, when we acknowledge it.
Yes.
And I used to say you have to give something away before you can acquire the knowledge of it. But it's actually not true. I always say the only way you can acknowledge what you have is for you not to have it anymore. So if it's lost, stolen, manipulated from me, or given from me, it actually has the same value add to my life. In fact, sometimes if it's lost, stolen, or manipulated from me, it has more value, because there's more shit in it, more fertilizer in it, to allow me to grow and ask for more. But I digress. I asked the guys if it was okay if you could ask us a question as well, because Blaine is my mentor. He runs that mindset mastermind. He's one of the world thought leaders that have been in the world's greatest motivators, and has learned with me from Bob Proctor and works with Jack Canfield and John Asseroff and David Asprey and Deepak Chopra, all the people that and he had opened the door for me to enter that room. So I thought it'd be cool if we could open the door and let you into our club as well by asking us a question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the question that comes to mind for me is, and I know you're a big believer in The Go-Giver, and that's a book that I also absolutely love. And I try to always operate from a place of giving as opposed to asking. But with the economy, I'll be real honest with everybody here. I had a great first quarter, a great last year, but this last quarter has been really tough. And so I've been thinking about cash flow. And the funny thing about this is I went to the Hamptons. I was trying to manifest cash flow. And there's a guy at this bar with this hat on that says cash flow. And I was like, no, that wasn't exactly what I was going for.
Universe is exact.
The universe is very precise.
Yeah. But I would love to hear from you. And I'm really trying to work on getting to a place where I am feeling abundant already. And I would love to hear from you on how you would go about, increasing cash flow through how I'm changing how I'm living my life.
Absolutely. Blaine, you want to go first or you want me to?
No, go for it.
All right. So, for me, I'm always looking for accelerations in the economic change, and that can be for the good or the bad. And during those times of accelerated change, for the good or the bad, determined by the industry, careers, or jobs, determinative of what I want out of it. So if I have my own business, I would be looking at maybe an industry. If I'm looking at a career change, I'd look at the careers, or if I'm coming out of college, I'd look at jobs. But all have to be synergistic, supplementary, or aligned with my skills, my knowledge, and my desire first. Because in acceleration of economic changes, there's huge opportunity. And once you can determine, okay, this is the industry I'd like to participate in, this is the career I'd like to participate in, or job, then I can look at 3 areas to see where my skills, my knowledge, and my desire are aligned, supplementary, or synergistic with. 1, the market. So what market am I working in? Just because last quarter and the quarters before you were doing exceptionally well doesn't mean your skills, knowledge, and desire that you've aggregated has to pertain to that same market, because no matter how talented you are and wonderful and abundant, the market may suck aligned with your skills, knowledge, and desire. So, we can apply our skills, knowledge, and desire to any market. So really study the markets for that synergy and supplementary. 2, this is the one that I think takes a little bit of experience and situational knowledge. Who are the market makers? And this is where I fell down in 2008. I knew what market I wanted to be in, but for example, the market maker in real estate was subprime lending. And if I understood that they were making the market for most of the properties, I could have created huge margins just knowing who that was. Then lastly is a really interesting one that may apply to you, Carrie, because it applies to, and this is the obvious one, but some reason most entrepreneurs especially overlook it, is where are the margins? People get so busy working. I call it activity they get paid for. They get so busy working, they forget to make money. They're incredible at what they do. And like, I'll listen to them for like a half an hour of a consultation, and I'll say, hey man, that's amazing. That sounds amazing for an opportunity for activity you get paid for. So how do you get paid? Or they're like, well, I can make like $3 an hour. I looked at it, I only make like $3 an hour. Oh, well, that doesn't sound like an activity you get paid for. So look at the market makers, and the margins. Align your skills, knowledge, and desire with it. Don't define the past by some title or career or what you are. Don't let that happen either. Just apply yourself synergistically, supplementary to those 3 things with an enormous amount of talent and attitude that you have. This will be the best 3 years of your life. I guarantee it.
Yep. Yeah. I'm going to make a comment here, referencing our previous guest. Yeah, go to Torpago, Torpago.com, yeah, and get a handle on the spend management side. Cash flow is cyclical. I mean, it always is. And one of the things that I was struck by what you were talking about earlier today, Carrie, was the idea of comparison. Yeah, comparison is a great place to start from, but it's a horrible place to live in.
Right.
So the fact that you're comparing is kind of, well, last quarter I was rocking it. This quarter I'm not. That's just an awareness. No, that all that is it's a noticing, and then it kind of kicks back to where David's at. What's the margin opportunities that I'm missing? That would be one thing. The second is, and this is a metaphysical take, the idea of gratitude comes into play very strongly here. I'm grateful for the fact that my cash flow is abundant continuously. You work from that framing. There is a consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Yeah. So it's an outpicturing of an internal conversation. So if I'm worried about cash flow, I'm going to have a constriction of cash flow in my experience. So you begin to let go of the worry. You just notice, cash is a little thin right now.
Yeah.
Hey, that's kind of cool. I noticed it. Then it opens. Awareness precedes choice. The greater my awareness, the more choice I have available to me. So, and then it kicks you back to where David was just talking about. What are the margin opportunities? What am I getting? What's the activity I'm getting paid for? And can I leverage that more effectively than what I have not been paying attention to up until now? All of a sudden, there's a new opportunity there.
Yeah.
So I would, for me, I just notice, start with the awareness and then gratitude and then the action.
Just as a segue, I wanted to come here and give some things because, again, from the Go Giver, right? And so, David, I know you have a 14-day gratitude challenge. It's interesting because there's a story about gratitude in my book. And I actually, when I released the book, I also did a gratitude project in conjunction with that. And it's a 30-day project where not only I have 30 days of prompts because sometimes people have trouble they repeat the same things, right? So I have 30 days of prompts, but I also have 30 days of acts of kindness. So, and you have an accountability partner. So every day you're telling them what you're grateful for, but also what your act of kindness is for the day. And it's by living in that constant gratitude and thinking of what you can do for others that it's absolutely transformative. So I need to get back into that myself, it sounds like.
The power of gratitude is the assumption that's embedded in gratitude that it's already here. It's impossible for me to be grateful for something I don't experience.
Yeah.
So it's, if I'm truly at an emotional level, grateful for cash flow, the experience of it's already here can't not be true.
That's where I need to be. That's where I kind of need to get there and embody that. Yeah.
Well, we are glad that you are here, Carrie Smith, my dear friend from law school, Carrington-Smith.com. Check out Blooming. Everybody needs to understand abundance by finding the gifts in the shit of life. Thank you so much. Don't be a stranger. I'm in the city a lot, so I will hopefully see you soon.
I would love that. Okay.
Great to meet you, Carrie.
All right. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
She is blooming, always growing, utilizing the shit as fertilizer. All right, my dear friend, mindset mastermind guru, Blaine Bartlett, BlaineBartlett.com. What's your takeaway for the day?
I'm going to land on the last thing that we just talked about. Comparison's a great place to start from. It's a horrible place to live. And it kind of dovetails back into what Michelle was talking about with how do you define success? Most people will start with a comparison, but then it becomes very personal. It's comparison can the quickening element, but then I got to take it on. I just need to own it myself and then just start moving. So don't denigrate comparison, but don't live in it. Just move with it and say, okay, what's next for me in my way as my lifestyle? And it's about a lifestyle choice. So I'll just kind of leave it with that.
Yeah, and for me, mine's relative to that in the respect of like a rocket ship, we usually use about 90% of the fuel to get off the ground, and mostly by utilizing fear-based emotions to get up, get started, get back started. So there's no doubt why comparison is a great place to start. I'm okay to take mine to, first you can use fear to get started, but once you get started, you don't want to use 90% of your fuel. So get started and then enjoy, which is relative to Michelle Segar, enjoy the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of your potential. But that doesn't mean you have to do the same things every single day. You just have to know what you want, who you can help, who can help you, how best to get that done today, to prioritize the choice of joy, the joy choice itself, to apply your why. And so I'm going to finish with my mantra that is relative to all of the great lessons you've taught me. I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy, and I am worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? And I think that would help Carrie as well, who's here. Thank you very much, my dear friend. Send my love to your Hawaiian miss over there. And we miss you, love you. I will see you soon.
Okay. Best to Mia, best to Julie. Have a great time.
No problem there. Always have.
I know it.
Take care.
Don't interfere with it.
Never, never. Thank you so much. Blaine Bartlett, Mindset Mastermind. He's my mentor. People ask me, where the hell do you learn this shit? Blaine Bartlett. And he's opened doors to other people that I've learned it from too. So if you want extraordinary situational knowledge and experience and relationship capital, BlaineBartlett.com. I am a living commercial for Blaine Bartlett. He has changed the way I look at things, as Wayne Dyer taught me, and the things that I look at have changed. Thank you, Blaine. All right, everyone, that does it for Thursday. Thankful Thursday always. Be thankful. If you want the gratitude challenge or you want a 30-day gratitude challenge, check out Carrie or email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Most importantly on Thursday, Thankful Thursday, be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. I'll see you later. Have fun, everyone. Thank you.